Hello, Real Talkers. Welcome to Real Talk with Hadassah Chen. If I say China, you right away think either of coronavirus or a good fake imitation of a crazy expensive bag or a million people living on top of each other and a million lights and video games. For sure you don't think of a man with a big long beard and a warm smile. Well, that's because you don't know Rabbi Freundlich and his amazing wife, Dini, who are the co-directors of Chabad Beijing, China. When the Lubavitcher Rebbe of blessed memory began sending Chabad emissaries throughout the world, he insisted that the facilities being established be called Chabad houses, not centers or institutions, regardless of their size and structure. The Rebbe wanted to establish homes throughout the world that would be there for any Jew, no matter what they were standing in their Jewish observance. He wanted every Jew to feel that no matter how far they may have traveled, they will always have a place to call home. A little bit of light dispels a great deal of darkness. Chabad believes in Judaism that binds all Jews together, not in the labels which drives us apart. Differences and disagreements are opportunities for learning and growth. A Jew is a Jew is a Jew. Chabad Lubavitch of Beijing, China was established in August 2001 in time for Rosh Hashanah. Rabbi Shimon and Dini Freundlich, together with their two daughters, Chaya Mushka and Dvaira, were sent to establish and run Chabad's office in Beijing. They are now joined by their daughters Chava and Grunya and their sons Aaron and Eliyahu Akiva, reaching out to approximately 2,000 Jews currently living in Beijing and approximately 15,000 business people / tourists who travel through each year, before Corona times. Chabad is here to serve as their home away from home, helping to take care of their Jewish needs. This includes Shabbat services, Shabbat meals, hotel reservations, information. Beijing by now has a Jewish day school for children ages from 1 to 12 years old, classes and lessons for both children and adults, kosher restaurants, Dini kosher restaurant, cafe miniature, Hebrew school, monthly women's Rosh Chodesh group, arranging for bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs, activities and programs for the Jewish holidays, youth activities, minyanim, Shabbat services, Shabbat meals, holiday services. I'm just saying this because it's China. Jewish community calendar, counseling. Don't know how I managed to snatch her away from this ultra busy schedule, even when they're not in Beijing because she's now in Israel. But I'm so glad she made it here. And finally, let me welcome Rabbanit Dini Freundlich.
Hi.
That was a long...
No problem.
I'm so glad you made it to come here. It's really, really important for me. I've been following you traveling around the world and finally making your way here to Israel. And I guess you're on the way back to China.
We took a small break from China and we're on our way back home to Beijing.
I see. Dini, let's start from the beginning. Me and you are almost the same age. And I'm just thinking to myself, if I was sent to China, how old were you when you moved to Shlichus?
So I was 21.
You were just married.
And we were in Hong Kong for 5 years, and then we moved to Beijing. But yeah, we were just married.
So Hong Kong, it was just like a warm-up experience before being sent to. When it came out, the name that you were going to be sent to the Far East, how was your reaction?
So I had spent 1 year teaching in Hong Kong as a student, so I had a little bit of a feeling, but I grew up in South Africa. So you can imagine that it's worlds apart in so many ways. Yeah. So definitely nervous. Mm-hmm. When we were in Hong Kong, English was fine, and I didn't need the Chinese. Once we moved to Beijing, that became very clear that without Chinese, I would not survive.
Wow.
And that was something very overwhelming. It was our second Friday in Beijing. We were still staying in like a small serviced apartment.
This is year 2001.
Okay. And just before Rosh Hashanah. And I was like, no, I can go to the market by myself. I'll manage.
Oh my God.
The week before, I had somebody help me. And I managed, and I went, and I did all the pricing with the lady on a calculator. And this is pre any translation apps. This is pre any
just
Google,
you on your own.
Yeah, no Waze, no Google Maps. And I was like so proud of myself. I went there, I purchased what we needed.
And you have a baby, probably.
So I left the kids with my husband.
Okay.
Thank God, because they would not have been happy to see me at the end.
Oh no.
Got a taxi, managed to tell him where I wanted to go, showed him the address. So the thing is that we came to like this big intersection, and I could see our hotel.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing is that we use our hands a lot to speak. You know, this is time and this is phone.
Yeah.
The Chinese do not use their hands to speak.
Oh Lord.
Plus, this means 6.
This means 6?
Not telephone. Like, even if they count only with one hand. They don't use their hands. So I'm like pointing and calling, and he's looking at me like I'm crazy. So it took me like maybe half an hour to finally get him to just like come out of the intersection and leave me on the side. And by that time I was in tears. Oh so I came home, I told my husband, Chinese school starting on Monday.
Wow.
So that was a big deal for me to learn a new language and a new culture.
So now you speak Chinese fluent?
I speak very well. I understand fluently. I do not read and write.
Oh.
Although my children all do, because we teach Chinese in our school. It's a trilingual immersion program.
Why you don't read?
So reading and writing, it's very difficult.
Right.
There's no alphabet. It's a character per word.
Okay.
And it's a lot of memorization. Basically, from young kids, they're just memorizing each character. You have to learn them.
But your kids are fluent?
Yes. Yeah.
So you come to Beijing, you have your own little apartment, I guess. You're overwhelmed. How does it start? You know, you're living in a country that's a communist country. So, I mean, I don't want to say too much here, but...
So initially when we got there, we knew of 3 small pockets of Jewish people, let's say. The one pocket was the Israeli embassy, which was then still not in their official building yet. They had a small group of people living.
Okay.
The second pocket was members of the Jewish community that were working at other embassies, American embassies, and some business people. So more an English-speaking Anglo-American community. And then there was a third group of people, Kafkazi Jews, that had a...
Kafkazi means they come from?
Azerbaijan.
Azerbaijan.
Very strong, small, but strong community. Mostly only men. The women were back either in Azerbaijan or Moscow.
Okay.
So we knew of these 3 pockets.
Mm-hmm.
A year before we came, my husband made a trip to Beijing.
Okay.
And met a representative of each. So he had a little bit of knowledge. So when we arrived, initially it was like, where do we start?
Exactly.
So my husband, in his infinite wisdom, went to spend the day sitting in Starbucks. There was one Starbucks in Beijing.
Oh, there is one Starbucks.
Oh, then there was one. Now there's
a million.
Okay. But there was one. And he just spent the day sitting there. And as he says, there were 2 types of people. 2 types of Jews, really. Those that came up to him and said, "You're a rabbi, you're here, wow."
Save me.
And the others who saw him and ran, and then he knew that they're also Jewish. And so slowly, you know, we started to meet people.
What do you need to start living in a place like Beijing when you're 21, 22 and you have a family? Is it courage? Is it faith? Is it, apart of course from the faith in the Rebbe, but what do you need? Like, you wake up in the morning, you're in Beijing, you don't have food, guys to eat, I mean normal. What is it? Inspiration.
So, I'm very lucky that I can't even count how many generations from Chabad, you know, but I was raised by parents. My mother came from Philadelphia. My father was raised in Toronto. Young couple, early 1970s, went to South Africa. My grandmother,
that at the time was like...
My grandmother always tells us the story. She said that when my parents came to tell them, her and my grandfather, that they were moving to South Africa, my grandmother pointed to a map of the United States.
Where is it?
And she said, "It's not even on the map."
Fantastic.
And I grew up in South Africa, and as a child, my parents gave us a feeling that, first of all, this was our home. I never felt like I was far. I always thought the rest of the world was far away. This is the center.
That's amazing.
So that it's home, and this is we're not just passing through. We're here, and we are staying, even in the difficult times that South Africa had. And the other thing my parents built us with is that a life without giving is not a life. And you have to find something in your life to give. And it doesn't mean that it has to be shlichut of Chabad. It doesn't mean that it has to be all day, every day volunteering. But when you wake up in the morning, you have to think to yourself, what am I contributing to this world? And being Chabad and being Lubavitcher Chassidim, they gave us the feeling that the shlichus, to be a shlucha of the Rebbe, was the biggest privilege, the biggest gift. So I was very lucky.
Wow.
So obviously it was hard, wake up in the morning. If you want bread, you make the bread. You want milk? Well, there isn't any, so drink black coffee. If you want chicken, fly in a shochet and find a little marketplace and do shchita of chicken. We had nothing when we came. There was no bet knesset, no shul,
eating?
no mikvah, no school. There was nothing.
What about mikveh? What does a woman do?
So for the first 5 years that we lived in Beijing, I flew to Hong Kong, which is a 6 a.m. to 12 p.m.
How long?
12 a.m. actually.
How far is the flight? How long
It's
is
a
the
3-hour flight, but it's international, so you have to go 2 hours before, and then,
me.
So that's what we did. But
Now you have a mikveh.
we have a
You have
beautiful
a stunning
mikveh.
mikveh. I saw it. I saw the
We're
pictures.
really lucky, yes.
Incredible.
But I was raised, and I'm really, really, that it was a privilege. And so, as hard as it was, and believe you me, there were many
Did you
tears.
have moments where you thought to yourself, I can't do this, we're going back?
Many times. We're all human, and it's not easy. Times where...
That's what I want to say to people. They think Chabad is amazing, they go all over the world. You are human, just like,
There were times where I said, that's it. Like, I want my kids to be near their grandparents. It's not fair. There were times where I said, I don't have friends. Like, this is not fair. There were times where, especially when we started to have to send our children away for education, where I was like, okay, no.
I'm stuck.
Times where it was just financially so difficult that, like, what am I doing? Like, how much more can you squeeze?
Yeah.
But
then I'm sure you had the strength.
Then you get a boost of energy, or you speak with someone, or you just, thank God I'm on shlichut with my husband, and we're good friends.
You're co-directors.
Really,
I love it.
We are co-directors, and we are really best friends, and so we're lucky that we can balance each other out. When he's on a high, I can be a little bit low. When he's on a low, I could be high, and hopefully most of the time we're more or less in the middle. But you have to also have support, and that's very important. We're not superwomen, and we're not unnatural. We are as human as everybody else.
Are you watched?
So we need to understand that China is a communist country, and it by their sheer kindness and understanding of the foreign community that they
are watched.
That they allow foreigners to practice their religion, and we are really, really grateful.
I'm sure you're have close connections with the government. I see you're very...
Yes, and we are very law-abiding. We follow the rules that they give us and they guide us, and we are very thankful because of them we can have a school, and we can have a shul, and we can have kosher food, and we can be there to welcome whether it's the community, the diplomats, the many politicians and business people that come to the country. We can be there to help with whatever is needed.
Who are your main people there? Tourists or diplomats?
So are you asking us pre-COVID, post-COVID, in middle of COVID?
I don't know what to say. Probably pre-COVID.
Okay, so we'll say pre-COVID.
Yeah.
So pre-COVID, we had a very big mix. There's about 20-some universities in our big city that accept
You
foreign
live in
students.
an apartment?
We live in an apartment.
Okay.
So, but there's about 20-some universities that accept foreign students.
Okay.
So many students coming for a semester, a year, some of them even for 4-year programs. We have, at the time we had El Al, had a big operation in Beijing. Tourism, there was at the peak sometimes 3 to 6 tour groups coming from one company at a time, like to Beijing a week.
Wow.
As well as it is a capital city, so we have all the embassies.
Right.
So of course the Israeli embassy, which we have a wonderful connection with them, really, really being good to us and good friends. And then you also have Jews in the American embassy and among others.
Do you have Jews that live in Beijing?
We do.
Then
So it's
Chinese?
no.
No.
So they're all, it's small. The amount of people that stay long-term is very small. I can count on one hand. But we do have people that have been there for 5, 7, 10 years. It's different to other communities. Other places you can have like 10, 15, 20% expatriates.
Right.
And let's say, 60 to 80% people that live there.
Exactly.
By us, we're
How
about
do you build it?
98% expatriate who
That's
come in
it.
and out, and about 2% that really call Beijing home.
I see. So it's always like a moving community. It's like
Always.
ever
Every
changing.
August, it's like, breathe in, we're going to welcome the new people.
Wow. It's starting from the beginning every year.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
And that's one of the things that's been a challenge for, let's say, our school. That kids are coming and going all the time.
So you've been there from 2001, you had nothing, and now we're talking about school. So you've built a school, you have a mikvah, like we said before, you have kosher food.
Yeah, we have a restaurant. I think one of the main things that both my husband and I felt was that if we're going to call this home, and if we're going to want other Jews to call this home, we have to build it. We want to make people feel that you can come. When we first moved there, it was unheard of for anybody that was on any level of observance of Yiddishkeit to come to Beijing, like to live, because it was impossible.
Right.
But with time, we've had families be able to move there for work, for embassy, for professors that were religious families because they had everything, thank God, that they could have for a Jewish community.
And you have like an active school with classes?
So we have a beautiful school. It's a Montessori-inspired school.
Wow.
It's a trilingual program. The children spend 40% of the day immersion only Hebrew, 40% immersion only English, 20% only Chinese. So we have like...
And you're the director? Of the
Yes.
school.
And now with COVID, I'm back teaching.
Director, you teach.
So we, this was pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Now with post-COVID...
How long were you closed?
Okay, so we were only closed completely. I left to go to the women's
Kinnus?
conference, to the Kinnus.
I saw that.
Yeah. I left with my 2 children.
You were the speaker, right?
Yeah. And my children stayed. My children came with me and my husband stayed.
Okay.
Then when it became apparent that we would not be able to go back for Pesach.
Right. That's April 2020.
So my husband came to join me and we brought all our kids from wherever they were roaming in the world. Not all. 2 of them were in the US. They couldn't leave. But we had a son studying in yeshiva, a daughter in high school. So brought the 4 of them and we went to South Africa.
Oh.
While we were there, China closed their borders and South Africa closed their borders. So we were like stuck. So it took us a lot of work and miracles and help and I don't know what else. And we got back like about 2 weeks before Rosh Hashanah of 2020. So that was the time that we were closed.
Okay. Were you scared when you were in China and Corona was just beginning?
Just started?
Yeah.
Yeah. Initially, we were hearing that there's this weird virus, and it was hard to really know. And then it just started saying that there's this virus. They said closing all schools, we're closing all restaurants. They closed everything. Basically, we're told stay home. Every 2 days, 1 adult from the house can go to the 1 corner store that remained open. Like they left in every little, I guess you would call it the makolet of the area.
Yeah.
Stayed open with fresh fruits, vegetables, and some other items. And you can go quickly in, buy what you need, obviously gloves, masks, and come back. So you were not supposed to leave the house. We did get permission to open the Chabad house for an hour a day. So people in the community, because of kosher,
That's what I was wondering.
could come in and get some chicken, some meat, and other products that we had in our kosher store.
You had food? Enough food?
We had. But it was very frightening because nobody had any idea how it's transmitted.
Yeah.
They, if we walk outside, if we...
They would tell you, people explain to you?
They basically said, it's transmitted in the air. Don't breathe. But don't touch anything and wipe down all your boxes. And if you get a delivery, because we were able to do some small like deliveries online, like for fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
But even those couldn't come into our complex. That we had to leave it outside, and we had to go to pick it up. It was just unknown, so unknown.
That was what you were fearing, I guess.
Yeah.
The unknown. I remember seeing a picture of you lighting candles, and I thought to myself, oh my gosh, where is she? Can she do it? I mean, it was going to come here also, so we were on the way. But then there was a video of your husband that went viral.
Yes.
Why don't you find out from all those people, the Rahman al-Islam, that died this week because they attended a Purim party, because somebody wasn't careful, because somebody made a minyan, because it was so important. Halacha is full of the importance of a minyan. Not when it comes to a pandemic, not when people's lives are at risk. People are dying.
And I remember seeing it, and I thought to myself, if he's saying this, we should do this.
So he just felt very strongly that even though it was such a big virus in China, with time, the numbers did start to go down in a pretty fast time frame. And he just felt very, very strongly that the world was afraid to say it's a pandemic. The world was afraid to start saying, like, let's just take this seriously. And even when the world did start, within the religious communities, to say, don't go to shul, to say, you know, minyanim, it's unheard of. And people were having a lot of fight back on it. And we live in a place where masks are worn a lot, not only for COVID.
Right.
So obviously in China, it's much easier. And we didn't have a problem with masks, although we don't wear them all the time. We're not, you know, for COVID, yes.
Yeah.
He just felt that people were not taking it seriously enough. And
he had no problem in saying, if there's no shul, there's no shul. There's no, you know.
And it was interesting, because initially he got a lot of backlash on that.
From Chabad?
From a lot of people calling him and saying, like, who do you think you are? But afterwards, he got the most amazing thanks from people. And actually, one of the ways we got our initial entry, like, to Israel last time when we needed to get back, was someone who said, I saw that video, you saved thousands of lives, I'm going to help you.
Wow, that's amazing. You see, when you do it the right way. But you know what? Chabad of Beijing for me doesn't mean Corona. I mean, I think that you guys are doing an incredible job, and I just want to finish with two things. Firstly, your children. Your children are Chinese, like they are totally into the Chinese mentality? They grew up there, or they're more American, or they're more Israeli? Like, how do you see them?
It's funny. We often have this conversation with our kids. My one daughter keeps saying, what am I? Because she carries a British passport. She has never stepped foot in England, but my husband is British.
Okay.
She was born in South Africa, but she doesn't feel South African. And she's lived her entire life in China.
That's amazing.
And she said, but what am I? They feel very closely connected to China. They're not Chinese citizens. You cannot become a Chinese citizen unless your parents are Chinese.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
So they're not Chinese.
But they have friends there.
Yeah, but it's home. For them, this is where they were raised. This is home.
That's incredible. But for school, you have to send them away at a certain point.
So now you're like squeezing my heart.
I know. I see your eyes, and I'm thinking.
So we're very lucky, and we're not different to any other shluchim around the world in this dilemma, in this challenge. So we're very lucky that they were able to be home initially with us for as long as we could. Having our school helped a lot. So that they were able to have their mainstream education.
Till at least?
So we've kept them home until the end of high school, until the end of elementary and middle school.
Ah, okay.
Thank God for the Shluchim online school, which also has been a lifesaver.
That's incredible.
And our kids go to the Israeli stream of the online school. So they're in school, they come to our school from 8:30 to 1. They go home, they have lunch, and then they go online school 3 to 9 p.m. Unfortunately, beyond that, we have to send them away. And we're now sending away number 5. That's one of the reasons we're here. We're left with just
Little
youngest
one?
at home.
Oh
He's
my
10.
gosh.
And I think it's always been difficult to send them, you know, to take your kids and say, you're 12, you're 13, you're 14, you know.
Go.
But I'll quote my grandmother again. And she said, you know, if you give children strong roots, then you can let them have strong wings.
Nice.
So,
How old is your grandmother?
she turned 100 this year, Lian Hara, and I got to see her on
Oh,
this
she's
trip.
the famous Bobby Lipsker.
She's the famous Bobby Lipsker. Yeah.
I'd love to have her on my show. Fly her here. She's amazing.
She is amazing.
Incredible.
And I think Corona has made it a little bit more difficult,
Right.
because China is still closed. We don't have the border is closed. You need
Oh.
special permission and a special visa to go in, and only if you have like the work or residence visa. So,
But it's open as a city? Like everything is open?
Yeah, but to come in, the borders.
I got it.
So it's definitely harder for us. You know, we're leaving 3 kids here. Last time we left our kids, we didn't see 2 of them for 20 months.
Wow.
Another 2 of them for 14 months.
Oh, that's so hard.
So this time, it's definitely squeezing my heart a little more.
Yeah.
But for the right education, and this is part of the education of Chabad, we want them in the right environment and with friends. And so we do what has to be done.
I have no words, seriously. Bemet. We think we're so cool, one is to be journalists, to be, have a talk show, to whatever you are, you do here in Israel. And then I see people like you who go and really give their lives over to this is just amazing. When I called you and I said, can you be on my show? And you said, oh, wow. And I thought to myself, wow? What are you wowing about? I should say wow to you that you're coming to me. I'm really, really honored.
I know. Thank you.
Really honored.
Thank you.
So good luck.
Thank you.
And in Mirza Hashem, everything should be okay. And you
Amen.
should see your kids often.
Amen.
Give our best regards to your husband. And we'll meet again
Thank
soon.
you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.